Welcome to Doulos Christos. I'm Paul Perkins, and my partner, Dan Sprague, is not with me today because, well, he's in the United States and I am in the Middle East. Today's topic is going to be third culture kids, and I'm here with my grandchildren and my son, and we're going to be talking about what that means. But we need to understand definitions first, and so we're going to ask the question, what is a third culture kid? So I've asked Joshua to explain to us, what is a third culture kid?
Third culture kids are kids who have parents from one country but then grow up in a different country. So my kids have grown up in Bahrain and the UAE, which is largely Arab culture, but my wife and I are from the United States, from the Midwest. So that means that they have elements of their personality and traditions and understanding of how we live is partially American, but also partially in terms of how Arabs live life. And so they have their feet in both cultures. They're a little bit American, but a little bit Arab, and that's really valuable because they are able to adapt into lots of different scenarios and lots of different group settings. It can also be hard because often third culture kids don't feel completely at home in one particular culture. And it's not just our kids that are third culture kids. Anybody who has parents from a different country and grows up in a country different than their parents are third culture kids. So if they've immigrated to the United States, they might be third culture kids. Military kids can be third culture kids. If people move overseas for business and have kids, those are third culture kids. And so that's what our kids are.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to the children and ask them some questions in regards to third culture experience. Let's start with Ava.
Hi.
Let me have them introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Ava.
السلام عليكم اسمي إيفا ولوني المفضل بنفسجي وأنا مشاكر للعيش في الإمارات.
All right, thank you. And what she was telling you was her name, something that was enjoyable for her, and what she was grateful for. Gabe, introduce yourself.
السلام عليكم اسمي جبريل ولوني مفضل أخضر وأنا ممتن لكوني TCK.
Thank you very much. And Philip.
السلام عليكم اسمي فيليب لوني مفضل أخضر أنا أشاكر أبي وأمي.
Very good. Now, for most of our listeners, they won't have a clue to what you were saying, but I want to give them a taste of what it's like for you living in the Middle East, as you have had to develop different life rhythms and also speak a different language so that you could fit in. I want to ask different questions to each of you. Ava, the first question I have for you is, what are some of the differences between living in the Middle East and then living in the United States?
The main difference is probably the culture, because in America the culture is like different.
It's different, yeah.
The Middle East is very traditional. It's very based on its religion, and so it has like a lot of celebrations that everyone participates in, and for America it's like
Right, so like in America, we would have Easter, but not all Americans would celebrate Easter. But here in the Middle East, all the Muslims do, or not Easter, but they would celebrate their own holidays, and everybody would do it.
Yeah.
Now, how did that work for you guys? Did you guys celebrate the same holidays that Muslims do, or did you celebrate the ones that we do in the United States, but yet did them here? How'd that work out?
We did celebrate things the celebrations in the United States, like Easter or Thanksgiving, and Christmas and stuff like that. But here, we do still celebrate those. But if Muslims invite us to like their house for dinner for Eid, which is a celebration for Ramadan, we would go and like celebrate with them.
That's really cool. We went out to eat the other day, right? And it was a Yemenese restaurant, and then another one that your dad and I went to. And we went in and sat on the floor with cushions in the back of us, and they came in, instead of a table, they had a plastic that they sit around. You don't see that too much in the United States, do you?
No.
Now, was that something you had to get used to, or do you do that at home?
No, we don't do that at home, but I've been like celebrating with people since I was little, so I'm pretty used to sitting on the floor eating using my hands.
Well, that is true, and we'll get to Philip in a little bit about his eating habits when he first came to the United States, and which really was hard for me, being an American. So we'll get to that in a little bit with you, Philip. Gabe, when I think of when you were young, when you first came in, you were born here, right?
Yes, I was.
You were born here, and you are blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and most Arabs are, what's their, how do they usually look?
Most Arabs are, there's a mix of skin tones, but most Arabs have black hair, or dark brown or black eyes, so.
So you kind of stuck out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the other person in my class.
You had one other person.
One other person, yes.
So was it difficult for you to fit in? Because you started off in kindergarten, right?
Yes.
And you could only speak Arabic in the class.
No.
Oh, you could speak English?
So I was principal's son, and in the Arab culture of honor the high so you don't get fired, and everyone, like all the teachers, did not want to do anything that would make me unhappy. So I wasn't a brat, but yeah, I didn't have to speak Arabic all the time, and all my classmates spoke English, and we didn't speak Arabic on our own. We normally spoke English in normal conversations.
Okay, but was that the way it was supposed to be in your classes?
I don't think there was any set, like, you
Okay.
have to do this. It's just, in classes, they would try and help me answer in Arabic, but in normal conversations with my friends, almost all of them knew English.
Okay, all right. So that helped you fit in because they understood English.
Yeah.
Was it easy for you to pick up the language?
No. I remember when I was young and I took all my classes in Arabic, there were two classes that I really did not like because it was more complicated Arabic social studies and Arabic class. Because I actually had to use most of the Arabic, whereas in English class we spoke English. In science and math, there are concepts there that you can kind of understand just by looking at math problems or
Right.
diagrams and stuff.
Okay, so but you had to eventually learn. Your parents got you a tutor, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
I remember because we came over and one of the first times, and I thought, well, I'm going to learn Arabic. So your mom said that she would teach me Arabic. She's mean, I would say a word, and she said no, and eventually I just said I don't want to do this anymore. So I didn't learn Arabic, but I'm glad that you guys speak it fairly well. You understand it really well, don't you? All right, Philip, we got a question for you. You're the youngest, of course. Was it harder or easier for you to live in the Middle East or in America?
It was probably easier to live in the Middle East because that's where most of my friends live, and that's where I've lived the most. The most I've lived in America is 1 year at a time.
Okay, so yeah, you came and you lived with us for a year while your parents were going around telling people what they're going to do. And but before that, it was really just on the summer times, right? So
Yeah.
you weren't here all that much. Living in Bahrain, did your brother and your sister help you to fit in, or did you have to find all your own friends?
Well, half, because my sister, she she was friends with somebody, which led me to be hanging out with that family. So I got to become friends with a boy in that family, and the boy in that family led me to a bunch of other friends. So
All right, so it's helpful to have an older sibling sometimes trying to fit in.
yeah.
You know, when you're off there by yourself, it's got to. So, Ava, for you, fitting in, you were the oldest, and you were kind of left on your own to kind of forge your new friendships. How was that at school with in a different culture?
In America,
No, here in Bahrain would have been then.
in Bahrain, well, I like grew up there, and so we were all pretty young when I started school. And in school, it was pretty easy because we were all in the same class. We were like 4, so it was kind of easy to make friendships. And we just stayed in the same class till like no one left the school hardly, and so it was pretty easy to keep those friendships. But in the church, everyone was used to people coming and going, so they were used to like meeting new people and saying goodbye to people, which is kind of sad. But I grew up in the church, so I had friends that I knew since I was like a baby. So and then when people came, they were my age, I'd just say hi to them, and we would talk, and then be pretty easy because I was used to like doing that.
So this is kind of to all of you, because you made the comment, Ava, that people come and people go. And that's typical in third culture kids, especially as your dad had mentioned, military, because I grew up in the military and we traveled around a lot and we had to make new friendships. Was it hard to see some of those friendships leave? And what made it easier? How hard was it? Did something make it easier? How did you deal with that? Any of you?
I remember that a few families have left, but none of them I was really close to. Mostly they were female kids, so
Yeah.
I didn't really lose any of good friendships. The only person that's left that I've had to leave friends behind was me. So
Sure. Now that was more in Bahrain, right? Now it's different here in Iraq. You have a larger friendship group now, don't you?
yes.
So when you leave and you go back to the United States for the summer, what's it like trying to fit in to a whole new friendship group? Because they're not Arab, they're not third culture kids, they're Americans.
The kids in America are very used to people staying, and they've grown up around those kids all their lives. And so when we lived in America for a year, or when we go and visit, it's kind of hard to connect, but because they're just not used to a new person coming in. But once I did get used to them and they got used to me and we became good friends, we created a really tight friendship.
Oh, good. But that wasn't was that the same for both of you?
So when I was in America, I felt the same as David. It was really hard to get into a good friend group, and for the most part, I really only had 1 or 2 close friendships, and then a big friend group as a whole. But yeah.
How about you, Philip? Did you have any good friends in America?
No, not really.
So who'd you hang out with?
I mostly stayed at home and
Followed me around?
followed you around, followed my brother and my siblings around.
Yeah, it's because it's hard to, if you don't find that one person that you really connect with, and a lot of times kids already formed their friendship groups, and so trying to break into those friendship groups can be difficult. And that's true with anybody who moves into a new area, but specifically for people who have different cultures, who have to fit into a whole new way of doing life, right? Because it's different. It's not as hot in Ohio. I mean, I remember you guys came to Ohio for the first time, and it was 80 degrees outside. You guys were wearing sweatshirts. I thought, wow, you guys are cold. Well, it was 120 degrees in Bahrain. So, yeah, the weather was different. Everything was a little bit different. Now, I have a question. Any of you can answer it. I have it down for Gabe, but any of you can answer this. Your parents have been leaders in the church a lot, and that can have high expectations for their children, especially if you go around to different places and they talk and stuff. It could have real high expectations for you to be the perfect kids. How have your parents helped you with that?
I never really felt the pressure to be that perfect kid. Growing up, I was definitely not that perfect kid. But yeah, there was never really a need to like encourage me to be better, or that I don't need to do it, because I was always surrounded by people, and people who don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we visited America, and we went around traveling to different churches, they all talked to my dad or my mom, and I waited for us to go home. So,
So your parents didn't parade you up in front of everybody and say, these are our children. They did?
They like to show us off because we could speak Arabic.
How'd you feel about that?
Well, if someone asks you to say something in a different language, you don't really know what to say.
Like for me here to ask you to speak in Arabic as you introduce yourself?
I mean, you told us what to say. That was easy.
That's true. But it is kind of hard to be up front, when your parents are going from place to place. And it doesn't have to be a negative experience. It can be positive, but it's one of those things that kids in America don't have to do. Third culture kids do, especially in your situation. Oftentimes people want to know who the family of the person is that they're supporting. But what is it about your faith? Because, you've grown up in a Christian home, you've grown up in a Christian home in a Muslim country. How have you made your faith your faith?
Well, I've made my faith my faith. It was really a long process, because for a long time, I just didn't really think about it. Like, it wasn't a part of me, like, to just think about, how can I do this so that I can be different from my parents. It was always just, it mostly was always just, like, my faith is my parents' faith.
Okay.
But then when I got a little bit older, I realized that my faith is not my parents' faith. And I tried a little harder to make that, clear, especially lately, since I'm in middle school with a school full of Arab kids and other third culture kids. It made me realize that I needed to utilize that and tell people, because a lot of people here are, I wouldn't say open, but they're open to having a conversation about this stuff. I've had, I'd say, at least 3 conversations with Muslims about various topics, mostly on the end of the world, but
Which it's an important topic. So,
Yeah.
But yet you talk to them about your faith, and it has to become yours, right? It's like my dad says, but no, it's what does the Bible say, kind of thing, right? How about you, Ava?
When I first started making my faith, I think it was the decision to really read the Bible and understand it, instead of just reading a chapter and then I'm done, without actively reading it. And also trying to listen in church, and that really helps if you take notes. That helps. And
Everybody listen, as a pastor, I appreciate all those people out there who take notes.
And I have started doing that. I feel like lately, especially this year, I have really made my faith my own faith, because I have been taking notes on my Bible reading and in the church, and like praying, like not just like, it's not like reciting poetry or something, like reading off a script or something, like actually talking.
Okay, actually talking to the Lord.
Yeah.
So, Philip, you're the youngest. You have 2 siblings who have spoken about their faith. What about you? Or are you there yet?
Not really.
That's okay. You know, they're older than you, and they're good examples for you. But when you get to that point and it becomes your faith, then you'll express it. Do you feel pressure from your parents to be doing something more? You know, like out there telling everybody about Jesus and.
No, but my brother is saying yes.
Oh, a little pressure from his brother. I did want to talk about one other thing, and it goes back to Philip, because when you guys came and lived with us for a year, one of the things that I had to keep telling myself is that it's not that important. It's not that important. Don't get upset. It's not that important. Because, Philip, when we would sit at the table, you would eat with your fingers. That just drove me nuts. And I think it really hit me just the other day when we were sitting on the floor and we were eating our food and looking around, and it just was so natural to you guys to be using your hands. And then it just dawned on me. So, well, sure, they were using their hands when they came back to the United States, because that's what they pretty much do here, right? So I had to keep telling myself, it's okay. It's okay. It's not a sin. I do remember once telling you had to pick your soup up with your hands because you picked up your beans too, but that was just a joke. So, well, I want to thank you guys for joining me today on Doulos Christos. I hope this has been informative to my listeners, all 3 of them, and I hope they gained a better understanding of what it means to be a third culture kid. And if they have any questions, they can always look at the link below and click on it and ask us any questions, and we can respond to that as well. So thank you for joining me today, and Lord bless you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, and thank you guys so much for recording that over there. I really appreciate you taking time while you're over in the UAE, and I'd just like to take this time to pray for you guys for safe travels and that just everything would go so well for you. And I also want to thank all the listeners out there, all 1 or 2 of you. We appreciate anyone who's listening, so thank you very much, and let's go to the Lord. Our Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, so much for this day. We thank you for time to hear from Pastor Paul's grandkids about the life of third culture kids. Lord, I just pray that you'd be with them, help them to serve you and grow in the knowledge of you every day. And we just pray, Lord, that more people would come to know you every day. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.